Good morning and welcome here at the new car showroom at Team Toyota with our Justice for All Behind the Badge show that we've been airing for several years now. And boy, are you in for another great show of epic proportions, as I brag about. And it's not me, I'm bragging for the people that are here to bring excellent stories that are true, the prosecutorial segments of it, all the justice involved. So stay tuned and don't go too far from the chair if you're watching this live streaming, which is on WBCB 1490. I'm Tom Mellon. I've been doing this show now for, my God, 12 years, Bree.
Wow.
It's pretty scary, isn't it?
12 years. I didn't
12
realize.
years. They just go on and on and on and on. And they're exciting. We do Let's Go Places, which is another billing. And then we do the Justice for All when I was doing it with our good friend, Matt Weintraub.
That's right.
Fred Harron, our sheriff in Bucks County, and even prior to that when Fred was the director of public safety in Bensalem. So the shows are great, and we're going to get right to it because we have a lot of good content with our special guests. Of course, Jennifer Schorn, our district attorney, who is here at my side. A special hello, as I just indicated, to a good friend who spins the wheels of justice with diligence, impartiality, that results in Justice for All, which is the name of this show, and that's Judge Matt Weintraub. I seen him last week.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He was here for the Tour of Honors captain's meeting, and
wonderful.
yeah, we'll talk a lot about that a little bit later on. But Jennifer invited her colleagues to talk about this special murder case, the Elizabeth Capaldi case. And with us this morning is Kate Kohler. Kate was the prosecutor. Tim Perkins. Tim, thanks for joining us today, as well as his partner with this case, Eric Landamia. Eric, thanks for joining us as well.
Good morning.
Boy, this is just great for me because, I get to hang around all the big shots here, and that's what I call them for a good reason because they keep justice and order nice and tight and tidy here in Bucks County. As I always say, if you want to come up here and commit a crime, be prepared to go to jail because we will catch you.
That's right.
We will catch you. And that's just my experience from being an old-time Philly cop coming out of me right now. But once again, thank Paul Muller, as we always do, as the sponsor of the show. He's the owner of Team Toyota. And we have a special Philly season coming up where the Tri-State Toyota Dealers Association, once again, for the next 3 years, will be the major sponsor for the Philadelphia Phillies. And Paul Muller, once again, who's the owner and the president of the Tri-State Dealers Association, he'll be hanging out with Kruk and all the rest of them down there, and Greg Lazinski, who you see drifting around, one of my favorite left fielders from the old days. So we want to thank Paul Muller once again, the sponsor of this show and many other shows that I do on WBCB 1490 and also 107.3 FM on the dial. And you can stream and watch this live on YouTube, which is a great way to do it. But let's get down to this special investigation where in the beginning it was investigated as a missing person.
Yeah.
And the culprit was basically saying, well, my wife had an affair and she just left and disappeared. But we found that it was a lot different. He actually was found to be guilty by dismembering his wife or ex-wife. And we're going to get into this full investigation and talk about it. Jen, you want to start by
so you've already
introducing?
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. I'm sorry, excuse me. You've introduced our team. There was one additional member of this fantastic team who was a local detective with the Perkins Borough Police Department, Tony Grow. So this team of four, they were simply outstanding in this case that started as a missing person case where a husband who very much lived with his wife at the time, to our knowledge, no real obvious issues in the marriage that one would suspect
Sure.
From outside looking in, but reported his wife as having left, as the result of having an affair.
Of course.
And there were certain things that weren't adding up, and I stand by that when there's a missing persons case, it is sometimes the hardest case to prove when you begin to suspect that this is in fact a homicide. But I am not going to get into the details because this team knows the details so well and did such a fantastic job kind of putting each piece of the puzzle together to ultimately to the point where we were able to arrest the defendant, Stephen Capaldi, for his wife's murder. So I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Mary Kay Kohler, to explain some of the details of the case.
Thanks, Jen. And thank you, Tom, for having us here.
Oh, it's our
really
pleasure.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you for being here.
So, Perkins actually reached out to our county detectives and asked for help in this missing persons investigation. And it quickly became obvious and apparent that she wasn't missing or, having had run away with some mistress, or excuse me,
Sure.
lover.
Of course.
We believed her to be in trouble initially and ultimately deceased. And one of the things that we began the investigation with is trying to find her, of course, but also running down every potential avenue to find proof of life and to ultimately prove, because we didn't have a body initially, that there's no way she could have been alive. So I do think that Detective Landamia can talk about things that we did to run down and prove that she wasn't alive to begin with. There's all kinds of things that we look at. Obviously, bank records. We ran, right, Detective, we ran her bank records. We looked at her Facebook. We talked to all of her friends, all of her family. It became very apparent, and it was very unusual that she hasn't surfaced in any way, hadn't reached out to her best friend, really one of her only friends, it sounded like. I mean, she had other friends, but her very best friend in the world, and her only daughter.
Oh, my God.
Hadn't even reached out to her in some time, which was very suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
So given that, and also the fact that the way this became reported was a little suspicious too. So Stephen Capaldi, the husband, the doer in this case, he was actually not the one who called police. He called his daughter 2 days after she went missing. His wife went missing. So this woman, who was, by all accounts, a homebody, didn't really have any hobbies, didn't work outside the home, didn't really leave the house at all except to go grocery shopping,
Sure.
hadn't been home for 2 days. And then he calls his daughter and tells her this ridiculous story about, how she confessed to him that she's been having an affair and she couldn't take the marriage anymore, and she just up and left. And the daughter comes right to their home and starts investigating herself, looking for clues. Where would my mom be? Where could she have gone? Why hasn't she reached out? She started calling her mother, of course, with no response. And when she looked around the house, her daughter, who knows her better than anyone in the world, and obviously
Sure.
even better than her husband,
Sure.
she found a couple things, innocuous things, but things that are important that her mom would not have left the house without. One being her favorite pillow. I mean, something just so
Okay.
simple as that. Her mother would not have gone anywhere without that pillow overnight. Her hair dryer, things like that. There are certain things that she found, and it just started raising suspicions in her own mind. Of course, at the time, she wasn't suspicious of her father because she absolutely supported him at that time. But she went to look through her mother's computer, saw that all the search history was deleted, her emails were deleted, and there was really no leads for her daughter to even latch on to. So she had no idea what was going on, but her daughter was the one who called police. She called police and reported it as a missing persons, of course. At the time, that's what she believed it to be.
Interesting.
And hoped and prayed. Her mom was just missing somewhere and would be coming home soon, any
course.
day. And I think that was the biggest tragedy of this entire case, was how Stephen Capaldi sat there every single day with his daughter and hoped and prayed with her that her mother, his daughter's best friend, would come home, knowing that he had brutally murdered her and hid her body, and knowing that she would never come home. So anyway, once police became involved, there were a few things that just didn't add up. And, of course, the detectives did an amazing job. Details in this case were all very important. Every detail, minor details, things that he said that he did, things that he said that she was doing. They were able to disprove some of those things. And so right off the bat, you know that he's lying to police about a missing person.
Of course.
And why would he be lying unless he was involved? So I think Detective Perkins sat down with him on a couple occasions and interviewed him personally and came up with some pretty good, well, you had some pretty good ideas of what was actually going down. But I think the key thing that broke the case was when Detective Landamia was able to seize and download his phone. And the things that we discovered on his phone, in particular, you know, his story initially of his comings and goings of the day that his wife supposedly disappeared, he conveniently left out that he was with his mistress. He left out the fact that he, in fact, was the one who had a mistress and was sneaking around behind his wife's back with this woman. So that was discovered in the phone. Of course, he thought he deleted it, but Detective Landamia finds everything, whether you delete it or not.
That's awesome.
He
That's
really
awesome.
uncovered some significant things, including search history in the phone. And I do want you to talk about the search history, what you found that was significant there.
That's awesome because, you know, these two investigators here are they're at the crux of taking it from the beginning, all the steps, looking for the circumstances, any type of physical evidence, and on and on. And Eric and Tim, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Let's start with the beginning, and how we can follow, or how you followed through.
Do I need this?
Yeah, the mic will be much better.
Great. So, as Kate said, this started as a missing persons case. The event occurred on the 10th of October. It was reported to Perkins Borough Police on the 12th of October. We got the call on the 17th of October to assist with the missing persons aspect of the investigation, specifically to try to check for flights for Elizabeth Capaldi, or Beth, to see if she had gone. One of the key phrases we kept hearing is that Beth would go somewhere warm.
Oh,
So
okay.
we had to, we did that. We did the inquiry to see if there were any indications of travel, specifically to any place warm or south. Even through when we had the press conference with then DA Weintraub, who asked for public tips, we did get tips as far south as Florida, which we had to follow up, where I spoke directly with a young lady that was almost insistent that the woman she saw in a particular restaurant was Beth Capaldi, even down to a tattoo that Elizabeth Capaldi had. So we had to do our homework,
Of course.
and determine that woman, we had to identify who that was through restaurant receipts to confirm that was not, in fact, Elizabeth Capaldi. It is all the little details. On a missing persons case, you're proving the negative in essence. Part of, like Kate said, we had to acquire his cellular phone, and we started, and her phone and her tablet, which are important. And we started the extractions and found some things that he did delete everything, even up through when he came to the police station that morning to give me his phone. He was outside the police station for several minutes in his car, actively deleting things off of his phone, which were then recovered when during the extraction
During the
process.
extraction, right.
I think an important facet of that too was we had initially, when Perkins Borough Police responded for the initial call of the missing persons, they refused to turn over Beth's items that were left there, which were her iPad and her iPhone. They were turned over 2 days later to the chief of police there, Chief Schorn, and we thank him for letting us be involved with this investigation. And but he wouldn't turn over Elizabeth's phone and her iPad initially.
That's suspect right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perkins got that information, eventually turned over to Eric, and then, interesting about his phone, Detective Groh and I had interviewed Stephen Capaldi, and at the end of, and we were just trying to get a comprehensive timeline for everything Beth did.
Of course.
And it was a calm interview. A very strange part about the interview was a person described as a PI, a private investigator, was supposedly to join Detective Groh and I towards the end of the interview, and this person did show up. We later found out it was a defense attorney. We didn't know that.
Interesting.
We had to research that, and when he gave us his card, it obviously said defense attorney on it. It wasn't a PI. However, even including that day, Stephen would not turn over his cellular phone. And I called him the next day, said, "Are you ready to turn over your phone yet?" He said, "No, I'm still doing things with it." He had a job. He worked for a trucking company. And
Everything seemed to be more important.
it did. Everything was important
That's a good
except
point.
what we were talking
Right,
about.
exactly.
And then finally on that Friday, I'll never forget, I wasn't in the office, and Stephen called me. It was probably about 7:30 in the morning. Said he had to go pick up his paycheck, and then he was going to get his cell phone and turn it over to us. I called Eric immediately because obviously we knew we were behind the 8 ball. We missed it for a couple days, and we weren't assigned for about a week.
Of course.
So we were way behind the 8 ball with the cell phone, but Eric did his thing with the cell phone along with the FBI, RCFL, and it was a treasure trove of information for us.
I'll bet.
And I'll let Eric explain some.
We'll hold off for a moment
Okay.
on that, Tim, Eric, Kate, and obviously Jennifer. We're going to take a quick pause for moments for our sponsors, station identification. But don't go anywhere because there's a lot more to follow with this case. And it's better than 2020 and Dateline and all those shows that you watch on TV. This is happening here in Bucks County so that you can feel safe and secure. We'll return after a few moments.
If you're looking to get a fresh start this year, we have some great news. New car inventory is back. We have over 100 new Toyotas ready to drive home today with some of our most popular models available. And with a huge selection of dependable certified used Toyotas, our pre-owned departments are ready to make a deal that works for you. Plus, our award-winning service centers will have you in and out and back on the road in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Are you a parrot head? Not that kind. That's more like it. If you're this kind of parrot head, don't forget to check out the Denny O Polka Show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon right here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We have just returned, and welcome back for all of our listeners out there. Great details that are coming up, and we're going to get right back into it with Tim Perkins, Eric, and Kate, and Jennifer. We're going to talk about this phone extraction.
Yeah, so like I said before we broke, that he finally turned his phone over on a Friday, and Eric will explain his interactions with Stephen when he arrived at our office in Doylestown. It was, again, another little piece of information for us about his reluctance. But.
So, to be kind, Stephen Capaldi is a strange individual. Like, he has a very strange affect. He's always seems like eerily calm, slow to speak, almost like not even quite that he was trying to think of the right words to say. Just every interaction with him was bizarre. Even when Tim and I went to talk to him one night at his house, when he was just he just wanted to talk to us about the hamburgers he was cooking in his bathrobe.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was just bizarre.
Oh. Would you have found him to be a sociopath? I mean, obviously, to be able to.
I don't think
probably
I
a
can
lot
make
deeper than that.
Determination, but
I can.
So when we did get his phone, when I did, and conduct the extraction, we had uncovered that he did a lot of searches in what's called incognito mode on Google Chrome, which is a type of search you can do if you want to turn it off from Google knowing what you're searching for. And it's also not supposed to save a record of that on the phone. Suffice it to say, we recovered it anyway.
Sure.
And some of the searches involved, there was a search on how to get away with murder.
Wow.
How to delete your Facebook messages. Can you avoid police detection by turning off your phone? There was inquiries about polygraphs. There was search, retail search history online for FBI handbooks and things of that nature. And then we start finding that he was researching quickcrete cement, reciprocating saw blades, which came into play later.
Oh, my God.
And then a DIY blacklight, which was a great moment when Kate confronted Stephen regarding that blacklight, because I never thought he would admit to why he used it, and he actually did, which was a surprise.
Can I just say one thing, because Eric won't say it about himself? When he says the inability to recover this data, it's believed to be that it's very challenging to recover. It is very challenging.
I'm
Eric
sure.
is exceptional at what he does and finds things in extractions that, would present challenges for many. So we really, it's why, our county detectives, I'm partial. Bucks County's the best of the best. We have the finest law enforcement in Bucks, but that skill set is so unique, and them working in collaboration with their fourth team member is really what made it work. So I just had to say that before Eric went on.
I totally agree. I mean, with everyone I've met over the years that you've brought up here, I mean, it's the finest with prosecuting cases and investigating cases. You can't find a better team than right here in Bucks County.
I'm sorry, Eric. Go ahead.
The other thing that we found of interest was the affair with the young lady over in Lansdale. The messages that he thought he had deleted were recovered in part. We were able to recover one side of the conversation based on a type of technology that I don't know how much we want to give away of our secrets, but we were able to recover one side of that conversation and the person's reply to that side, and we're able to kind of like prove pretty quickly who it was who was having an affair, and kind of identifying that that's probably why Stephen came up with the wife having an affair story. It's claiming Beth did because it's something he could tell from his own heart and mind without having to lie. He just projected it onto her.
Of course.
And everything really started coming together once we had the phone, because we were actively investigating as missing persons. We didn't have Stephen in our crosshairs from the minute one. I mean, we were all over the place. Remember, Tim did lots of inquiries out with all the tips we were getting from the press conference. We were kind of scattered. Tony and Perkins were running down leads. Chief Schorn was a great facilitator. They were all phenomenal throughout, all the way up through, and to this day
Absolutely.
still. They were great. It's just it was insane. We called it like a 7-week sprint, because it was from the minute we got it on October 17th until he was taken into custody on December 8th of that year. We just lived this case.
So I guess you had him, not as a flight risk, but to keep an eye on, keep tabs on him, because the one item that we have on our side is time, keep getting more and more evidence. But I guess you kept an eye on knowing where he was.
The only part time wasn't of interest, or if Beth was alive, but we quickly understood that we did not believe Beth was alive still after seeing some of the searches on the phone,
And you were unable to find any proof of life.
We did everything under the sun to try to find proofs of life. We reached out to different agencies. Eric and I, we spent weekends at the office, not many weekends because it was a quick investigation, but we went down every road we could to try to prove she was alive, and nothing that we did could prove that she was still on this earth.
You've discounted everything possible, which was
We believed
phenomenal.
we did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with the daughter not being contacted, that made you realize right from out of the gate.
Right.
You know.
And we had the opportunity, I'm sorry,
No,
Kate.
go ahead.
We had the opportunity to interview the daughter several times, and got a lot of good background information from her.
Great.
Obviously supportive of her father.
Sure. Sure.
And you interviewed the mistress too, right?
Eric and I interviewed the mistress in her home, and that proved that we were on the right track. There was stuff we learned. Again, like Eric said, we can't give up all our investigative tips, so not to. What's the word I'm looking for?
To educate other like-minded
Right.
individuals.
They have enough.
So-
They have enough out there that we don't want to give them any more.
We used everything in our investigative toolbox on this case.
Everything.
Everything.
Sure.
And beyond. And it was a sad investigation. You know what I mean? But a lot of the stuff that we did, we were getting together probable cause for the end goal was to arrest Stephen Capaldi for the murder of his wife.
Of course.
And I should jump in, and I know this will frame a question, or I guess for Kate to take it away. One of the things that we utilize in Bucks County is our investigating grand jury, and Kate runs our investigating grand jury along with our colleague Jovan Joes. And Tom, you heard me talk about this before, but they're random citizens impaneled from this community. They don't know if they're going to serve a 2-day jury trial when they get their summons. Come to find that they're going to be impounded for a year and a half at the least.
Wow.
Meeting 1 day a week. And there's a big misnomer that, when it goes into grand jury, that's, it shifts to the prosecution and the detective's investigation is done, the detectives, along with Kate, they work tirelessly to present the case. And there's some things that you can do there. If a citizen says, you knock on their door, no, I don't want to talk to you, and in particular, the mistress, no, I don't want to talk to you, or she says lies, you can serve her with a subpoena, compel her to come in, and unless she has a Fifth Amendment privilege, she's compelled to answer. Similarly, you could put targets in, and they did just that. So there's a couple great moments in the investigative grand jury that this team should share.
Great.
But it is, again, one of the weapons in our arsenal. And, you can imagine the scope of this, and they're whittling it down, and then, gearing up for grand jury. So.
Yes, and our grand jury, I will say, we are so grateful to those people in the community, because they do such great work with us, and they're patient, they're diligent, and they listen, and they want to help, and they solved a case along with us. So we absolutely appreciate everything that they do. I will say that, we could spend probably a week talking about this case. It's just, there's so many things that happen, and it's a sad case, but it's a fun case investigative-wise to talk about. But when we did utilize the grand jury, and we did compel a number of individuals to come forward to testify in the grand jury, and as Jen said, one of them being the target. And you had mentioned we have to watch him as time would come by,
Yes.
more evidence. Well, he was such a cocky individual, and I do really believe in my heart that he thought he was going to get away with this.
Wow.
And so.
It's hard to believe.
But we love cocky people. We love
Yes,
them. We
it's
love
good.
them because they come in and they think they're going to beat us, and they
not
don't.
happening.
They cannot beat us.
Not here in Bucks County.
Because we are, the detectives had already nailed him down to a story that we could disprove. Things were adding up. It was just a matter of time, and it wasn't just the grand jury, it was everything that we did in conjunction with the grand jury. And one of the things that I know Detective Perkins loved was when then DA Matt Weintraub decided to do a press conference and ask for the public's help, not only because we really wanted the public's help.
Of course.
When we first got this case, what we wanted was Elizabeth Capaldi to come home alive and safe to her daughter. So that's what we were trying to elicit. But, and I know Detective Perkins says he wasn't sure it was the husband initially. I feel like I really was.
Did
and
you?
so when
Okay.
we were getting, it's always husband.
Too
But we have
easy.
to disprove other people too, and I appreciate that. But it was funny for Tim and I to be working on this together because he wanted to make sure, obviously we're not putting all of our or eggs in one basket, and I was like, it's the husband. So when Mr. Weintraub did his press conference, I asked him, I said the point was for him to ask for help for the public, but it was also, at that time we believed it to be the husband. And,
Sure.
and the fact that he did that press conference, some of the things that he said, which were very articulate and obviously appropriate, I think the press had the same questions that we did. Well, why did the husband do this?
Sure.
And they brought it up. We didn't even have to say anything. So, of course, DA Weintraub was commenting on that, and Detective Perkins had asked him to keep it vanilla. Those were his strikes. Keep it vanilla, Matt. And it's hard for Matt to do that. And I told Matt to keep it chocolate.
Oh, there you go.
And
A mixture of both.
it was
right.
so funny because after that press conference, Detective Perkins leans right over to me and he goes, "That was so vanilla. It was chocolate." It was the best. But what that unleashed is the public coming together. There were search parties. There were people knocking on Stephen Capaldi's door. There was added pressure that we did not ask for anyone to do that, of course, but pressure from all angles against this man, and this man who thought that he was going to get away with it and thought he was in the clear and was, putting himself out there as the sad husband who's waiting with his daughter and
Sure.
please come home. And,
Sure.
and so I think he started to unravel by the time he was in grand jury. So that helped a lot.
Oh, a lot. Extremely.
Pressure really is always on our side, time and pressure. And so when he got into the grand jury, we had, of course, a strategy that we wanted, a plan of attack that we wanted to go, and I won't go into that. But essentially, he ultimately, while he was on the stand, he admitted to certain things that he he just couldn't. He
Couldn't
couldn't
hold it in
undo.
anymore.
He couldn't undo. And one of those things. I'm sorry. You trying to take a break?
We're going to take a quick
Okay.
break, and there's going to be more discoveries, more evidence, and now that the public's involved, don't go anywhere. Sit at the edge of your seat as I am, and you're going to learn more about how. It's really the question: who are our investigators? What do our county detectives do? Our justice system, and that's what this show's all about. So that you're going to find out the hard work and how the evidence is brought to the surface. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors.
If you're looking to get a fresh start this year, we have some great news. New car inventory is back. We have over 100 new Toyotas ready to drive home today with some of our most popular models available. And with a huge selection of dependable certified used Toyotas, our pre-owned departments are ready to make a deal that works for you. Plus, our award-winning service centers will have you in and out and back on the road in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Are you a parrot head? Not that kind. That's more like it. If you're this kind of parrot head, don't forget to check out the Denny-O Polka Show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon right here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We're back here with Justice for All with our District Attorney Jennifer Schorn. Kate Kohler is here. Tim Perkins. Eric Landamia. Boy, I'll tell you, I got to work on my pronouncing the words. But great show. We're going to get right back to it because there's a lot more. And where did the murder take place? The things, they're all in order chronologically. We'll get right back to Kate.
So I was talking about how Mr. Capaldi came into the grand jury, and again with him being cocky and thinking that he's smarter than everyone in the room. He started to tell his story again, and he went over, what he believed to have happened and all the things that he remembered on those days. And of course, what he didn't know was he was locking himself into a story under oath that he couldn't then backtrack, and we could prove that he was lying on a lot of the things. And also, based on what he testified to, we could also prove that he staged the scene of his home when police were at his home, looking for evidence of where Elizabeth could have gone, as it was a missing persons case. So all of those things were really important. And then when he was talking about his whereabouts the days after the murder, he happened to mention that he went down, looking for driftwood by the Philadelphia airport, and Jen Schorn did not. Speaking of being humble, she didn't even mention she was absolutely part of this team. It was more of a 5-person team than a 4-person team. She was involved from the very beginning, and she was sitting in grand jury listening to his statements.
Wow.
And I could see, I looked out of the corner of my eye, I could see Jen furiously taking notes. She knew.
I'm not surprised.
I know, never. When you have Jen Schorn available, you want her in the room with you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So when we took a break.
A tiger with teeth.
Exactly.
Right?
We had taken a break, and Jen, who, something I very much lack, but Jen has, has sense of direction.
Okay.
She knows everything about every location in this area, and when he said where he went, she was like, "That's where the body is. That's where the body is." I swear to God, on a break, that's what she said, and it ended up being true. But so, with Jen's knowledge, when we went back in on the from the break, and over that break, I apologize. Mr. Capaldi took a polygraph and he failed. Of course, the polygraph.
Of course, when he was
asked
surprised.
directly, did you kill Elizabeth Capaldi, and do you know where she is? So after that break, he was confronted with a couple of the things that he had lied about, and we could disprove. And he essentially, he just broke down. He broke, and it was it was something that everyone could feel, I think, in the room and in the
The
air.
I have
know?
to stop Kate.
There you go.
Kate broke him.
No kidding.
Kate broke him.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
And
fantastic.
when Jen, Tony, Eric, and I were on this break, Kate was focused. You could tell she was in her zone. She walked back over to the grand jury room by herself, and she broke Stephen Capaldi down.
Wow.
You could watch it happen.
Yep.
Yeah. You could-
It's like
That could be a show on its own.
And-
tossing haymakers and the crack just happened. And it literally watched it live. It was amazing.
And I should say, so when we talk about this break, we're over at County Detective Headquarters, and he's taking a polygraph, and we're watching it. And you're watching he's so arrogant, and he thinks he's going to successfully show no signs of deception, and it's evident, So we know this is Kate's moment. And then Tim is not giving himself, and Eric is not giving himself enough credit, because Tim, Eric, and Tony are tirelessly gathering intel and information based on the things that, when he mentioned the airport, there's some investigative tools that I can't speak to, but Tim was on the computer, logging in, figuring out, and giving Kate in real time the information. And then this force has to compile all of that and go right back over into the grand jury room with the weight of the world on her shoulders.
God,
Like, are we going
absolutely.
to get this done? And mind you, he had an attorney. I need to be clear. This man could have invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege
At
but
any time.
At any time. But Kate used her skill to play on his arrogance, and that he wanted to convince this young woman
That I
that
didn't do it.
I didn't do it. And so that's just the backdrop when then we unleashed her.
That was the chocolate part of the.
That's the
That's
chocolate.
the
That's the
chocolate.
chocolate.
Very- that is so funny.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Yes, but this whole thing was absolutely a team effort. I mean, from start to finish. No one of us, I think, could have done, anything in this case.
Did he ever show any sign of remorse? You would think that he would
Only
have
for
some
getting
type
caught.
of a
I think
facade.
only for finally realizing he's caught. No remorse for what he did. No
No.
remorse for how his actions affected his daughter or his family or her
No
family.
concern.
That's my opinion, but I don't believe so.
Tim, Eric, you're
I
saying.
think he asked both of us separately. You could just to what Kate said. He asked
Yeah.
both of us separately about when he was caught, when we knew it was him, and that goes to he didn't care about her or anything about her family, who were just completely distraught, begging him for answers that he was just disregarding. All the public's assistance and the vigils and everything else they were doing to look for her, and how he just basically, thumbed his nose at them by being so arrogant and dismissive. All he cared about was how we knew and when we knew.
Incredible.
Yeah, and so when he broke in grand jury, what happened ultimately was that later that same day, he gave a recorded audio and video recorded statement to these detectives and admitted to everything that he did. And as Detective Perkins was leading him out of the grand jury room, do you want to say how that went down?
Eric just kind of hit
Yeah,
on
he
it.
did hit on it.
We
but
he wanted to speak with his attorney before we were at this point. We knew they were going to provide a statement, so we put them in a room by themselves, and then we went to our office to go into a conference room where District Attorney put on the record some details regarding his eventual confession.
Sure.
And when we were walking into the DA's office prior to the statement, he looked me in my eye and he goes, "How long have you known?" I said, "Hopefully we'll find out soon." And then we'll over the next, I don't know, I think the interview was about an hour and 55 minutes, and then he was arrested.
So he actually asked you that question. How long did you
How
know?
long have you known? Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
right.
Amazing. Isn't
And that
it?
was before the actual confession.
Sure.
So
And
No, I'm
Tom,
sorry.
I failed to mention Matt Weintraub. That I know they both mentioned that he created this ability for us to. It's built on trust in his team to proffer, and the goal obviously now was to lock this confession in, but give him something
Mhm.
relatively small in the scheme of things to bring Elizabeth home. So even though they obtained the confession, the work was not even close to being done.
Incredible. You know, we're not hearing much about the attorney. He got paid well, but didn't have to do much.
he did do a lot for his client, though. I
Did
will
he?
say he
Okay.
did. He did a good job. But when you have a client who thinks he's smarter than the detectives in the room, you can't do much.
Yep.
Sure.
Well said.
So, but he afterwards during the proffer, I mean, he was very instrumental in negotiating the terms for his client, and I think that we all you know, when everyone leaves the room 100% not all 100% happy, I think, you know, you've reached the right resolution. But we were absolutely happy with the fact that we were able on a no bot. We still, at this point, now mind you, this is less than, what, 30 less than 30 days after she was reported missing.
Sure.
So, I mean, to have no body at that time is a lot more substantial than had this been 10 years from now, where, you know, we could absolutely 100% say there is no way Elizabeth Capaldi was breathing at all.
Of course.
And so, you know, we were in that stage where we wanted closure for the family. We wanted to try to bring her home so that they could honor her remains and
Some
properly.
sense of dignity there.
Exactly. And also give especially her daughter, a sense of what exactly happened to her mom, the truth of what happened. You know, that her mother was not cheating on her father, that she was killed. And so that's what we wanted from him. We wanted a lot of things from him. We wanted him to be truthful, to tell us exactly what happened, to tell us where we could find Elizabeth so that we could bring her body home, and then to not put the family through a long, drawn-out trial and give them closure at the first possible minute. And that's what ultimately we got. And he's in jail for a very long time, and he's not going to be getting out anytime soon.
I was about to ask, what was his sentence that was handed to him?
Well,
no agreements, I'm sure.
Well, so Tom, this is tricky. In PA, there's first degree and second, which didn't apply here for felony murder, a second, and that's life without the possibility of parole. In order to broker the deal, to lock in the statement, the confession, to bring Elizabeth home, to provide, you know, closure as quick as possible, as Kate indicated, he pled to third-degree murder. But it was necessary, and it's one of those challenges, you know, that we face often, and there are statutory caps. I firmly believe an individual like that, who is a narcissist, who thinks he knows better and is smarter than everyone, will serve the better part of, if not the rest of his life, in jail, and it will be hard time. But it allowed for this final piece. You know, if we, you know, it's easy to look at the end result and say, well, why did you do that? Except the end result happened in part because of what Kate so eloquently said. There had to be some give. We had to give to get, and the defense gave. I mean, because of the talented team, you know, gave what they had to. So ultimately, the details are pretty remarkable as to what you learned. Tim, I don't know if you want to explain, you know, what you learned ultimately happened to Beth.
Again, we sat down with Stephen for just under 2 hours. Our whole team did, and the DA. And Stephen admitted he had smothered and strangled his wife in early October there. And he had essentially, I don't know how much detail I want to get into. He placed her in another room in the house. And then he had gone to work. And then he eventually admitted that he did dismember his wife.
And this was in their home.
This was
in Perkins.
It was in the home, yes. And then he transported his dismembered wife's body to different locations, and eventually we were able to recover some of her remains.
Yeah.
And like I said, without getting into too many details.
Of course.
And so yeah, that's he did admit that, and remorse, I don't know. I don't believe so, but it's somebody else can be the judge of that. We're not being the judge of that.
I understand.
And that's essentially, without getting into too many details, he admits to doing that to his wife, and asked him flat out what caused him to break. He had no answer.
No answer at all.
No answer. They were married for 30 years.
Oh, God.
Good job. He was on his job for 30 years. No signs of domestics at the residence.
Beautiful house, too.
Yeah.
Very nice house in Perkins Borough.
My goodness. One child, just one child that they have.
Can't explain it. You can't explain why this happened. We wish we could. But.
And he never has.
And I was about to ask that question, Eric. You know, was there any explanation later down the road, or how does he feel today? But, you know, there's too much work involved with other cases we don't have time to go and ask him questions and go back in and interview
Even
him.
after he assisted with the finality of the investigation, I think Eric and I asked him, even out at the scene of the recovery of his wife, like, why? And just blank stare, nothing, you know. And he couldn't explain it. And
Yeah.
we don't really need
as
to
such.
know.
No,
Yeah.
we don't.
There's
We
really
know
no
that-
good reason. I
No.
think that's really why. I mean,
Absolutely.
anything he said
That's a
wouldn't
very
have been
good
a good
point,
enough
Kate.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, any type of an explanation. Obviously, you
Right.
don't want to be
Right.
graphic, because sometimes it can be very grotesque and graphic, the way these crimes are committed. And there's really no good reason, as you pointed out. We'll be returning after a few moments from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. How much time do we have, Bree? About 12 minutes. We'll come back and we'll do a little wrap up. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
If you're looking to get a fresh start this year, we have some great news. New car inventory is back. We have over 100 new Toyotas ready to drive home today with some of our most popular models available. And with a huge selection of dependable certified used Toyotas, our pre-owned departments are ready to make a deal that works for you. Plus, our award-winning service centers will have you in and out and back on the road in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Are you a parrot head? Not that kind. That's more like it. If you're this kind of parrot head, don't forget to check out the Denny-O Polka Show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon right here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We're back with Justice for All, and once again, an incredible story. Sad story. We're reaching the end of it, but we have a few more things that we want to cover, right, Jen?
Yeah, there was, you had asked a question on the break, and I thought perhaps maybe Eric could shed some light
Sure.
as to, we don't know the why, and you kind of made a comment earlier that I tend to agree, although I'm lacking the qualifications to say, as far as this person is a very troubled individual. He presented so charming, and as Eric and Tim were saying earlier, just this calm, very well-spoken demeanor, and really just, very just unusual. But there were some things that we learned that may offer some insight. Although, like Kate said, there's no explanation as to how someone could do this to someone they love. And more importantly, even if your marriage is fractured and your marriage is over, you love your child, and this is your child's best friend. And like Kate said, then that perhaps was the saddest part, is to watch Beth's daughter and what she went through after the realization her mom is gone and her dad is the reason for her mom's murder. That was heartbreaking. But Eric, you have a little bit you could offer us to that.
Yeah, so it appears at least from the digital records, that he and his mistress kind of connected in the March of 2022, maybe early April timeframe. And following that, there was a lot of searches about
On his devices.
About loveless marriages, lack of intimacy. But then there were also websites related to the top 10 signs of being a psychopath, or other searches relating to psychopathy and dark thoughts and things of that nature. So it seems like between the mistress and whatever else was going on in the home, he started clearly having some issues. He was at least either trying to self-diagnose or research for himself or for someone else, and that kind of maybe added to the pressure of what he was dealing with. Tim reminded me on the break as well, one of the other pressures that I think we touched on very briefly was Elizabeth's family. Her brothers, Brian and Brad, were relentless in keeping the pressure on Stephen, constantly contacting him. Brad especially kept the pressure on Stephen, and they also at the same time were a phenomenal resource for us. Never hesitated to help us out, answer a question no matter how small. They were very communicative, and both their wives were great. And you know, a lot of credit goes to the Seward family for assisting in this investigation.
Great contributing factors throughout this type of an investigation. When you have the family concerned and they know things that we don't know.
Especially when the missing persons part of this was still being investigated, because her tendencies, her desire to be somewhere warm, if there was marital discord, things of that nature, you get some of it from Stephen, but you have to verify if it's true, so you go to the people that have known her the longest.
Of course.
Which was her family, and Emma.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was powerful. Tim, is there anything you wanted to add, or just as a kind of wrap up?
No, I mean it was a sprint. It really was.
Yeah.
You know, it was 60 days from start to finish, and it seemed like we uncovered new bits every day, and all of them were important, and they were just pieces. We had to put the puzzle together, and you can say that, you know, it's the husband or it's the boyfriend, but we have to, in the end, we have to prove it. You know what I mean? And it was a rewarding but sad investigation. You know what I mean? And it's
Careful, methodical, which
Yeah.
and it was a great team.
Yeah.
You know, we had a great team. Thank again to Perkins Borough Chief Schorn, Detective Groh. We were, you know, the RCFL and Terry Gubernick, which was a very valuable tool again with these devices. The devices were very important to the investigation, and
that is no question about
And
that.
I should say we get used to using acronyms in our business, but the RCFL is the Regional Computer Forensics Lab, which we partner with the FBI, and we have an individual who's employed by our office who works
Okay.
there full time, who is Terry Gubernick, who Eric mentioned, and it's just so cool to see. Well, first of all three of my colleagues have families. And, you know, Kate is a young mom, and, you know, you're going about your day thinking, oh, you know, tomorrow I'll get this report done, or tomorrow I'll prep this case for, you know, 3 weeks from now for trial. And next thing you know, this happens, and it takes over and consumes your life, and there are collateral consequences. You know, your family suffers as a result. And when Tim said this is like a sprint, it's like sprinting a marathon.
I'm certain of
and
that, yeah.
they gave everything, using every resource and the collaboration. It's just so cool to see. And it, like, very few people live like that. Their job is pretty predictable.
Sure.
Obviously, there's several career paths that are similar, but you know, this is one where it hijacks your life, and they worked tirelessly and then brought it all together. And I knew just what went into it. And there is a very, very high honor and you know this, in this line of work, and it's this Citizens Crime Commission award annual banquet where they award excellence. And
Yes.
And so this team was nominated, and there are a number of nominees that get selected, and they are all outstanding at what they do. But they won the award, and it was really a privilege to get to see them recognized. And Kate was on stage and snapping photos, so proud
great.
of them. But
Congratulations.
yeah, so it was
Yes.
really high praise.
Well, it's an honor and a testament to the work that you do. You know, I'm sure that when you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror and say, you know, I'm proud of what I do. You know, proud of myself for what I'm doing for the county and for the citizens. And
Absolutely.
It goes a long way. It really does.
It's the best job in the world.
It really is, and the satisfaction that you get.
Yeah, you know that.
Yes, I do.
You have some phenomenal stories that I have enjoyed hearing. So
Yeah, some of them are. Some of them are just funny. You know, you go into these domestic quarrels. And I'll say this real quick. I go into in North Philadelphia. My partner and I, we get called, and we walk in, and there's the whole house was disrupted. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm working the grave shift, and the two of them, husband and wife, are hollering at each other, back and forth. I can't stand it. And I asked quick, it's funny, Valentine's Day, we're talking about this, the irony of this.
Yes.
And I said, so you're arguing, and how, right away, how many years have you been married? Well, we've been married 38 years. Wow. Where did this begin? And they started talking about their relationship. And right away I knew I had them. Everything calms down. They're falling back in love again. To a degree, I'm getting dramatic. And my partner's like looking at me. And I said, well, you know, we were here for a reason. If you, in the beginning, he wants a divorce. I want a divorce from my wife. I said, well, from the powers that were instilled in me in the county of Philadelphia, I said, if you'll put your hand on my badge here for a moment, I will now declare you, raise your right hand, and, you know, I'll declare the two of you divorced. And my partner's looking and thinking, I can't believe you just did that. And so the guy looked at me and he said, we're really divorced? I said, yeah. I says, you know, once I take all this paperwork back to the district, and I have to take it down to the judge, and everything will be probably finalized very soon. And they ended up embracing, and could you just get rid of that report? And we left domestic quarrel, and we did a great job. I didn't even know it was going to end up that way. So you just never know. I mean, you have to practice all the traits that God gave you, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. But I always remember that story. I divorced somebody with no rights,
no authority,
no authority, and he believed that he was divorced for like maybe 5 or 6 minutes.
That's a great story.
We want to thank you once again for bringing a team of great professionals, and Tim, I hope that you come back and join us, because there's going to be a lot of other cases that we're going to want to discuss. Eric, Kate, do you promise you'll do that?
Yes.
You're on the air. You're
Okay. Under his authority.
Can't
again.
back out now.
His
right.
authority's pretty broad.
Right, again, there you go. Right, Jen?
So, yes.
But a couple closing words.
Yeah,
Jen?
just I guess, you know, again, I'm so proud of the law enforcement community we have in Bucks County. We truly have the best of the best, and I think what makes it so special is, I have to say, our communication, meaning the district attorney's office and our 39 police department counterparts work together in collaboration with one another, and we communicate issues, and we all want to get it right, and we all want to do what's right for the right reasons. And that's a special relationship, and I don't ever want to lose that. And I know we won't, because we have great people who work for the county, great people who work in the departments, and they all want to get the job done. And also, and Matt used to always say this, Matt Weintraub, I should say his honor, that we don't ever forget about a case in Bucks County. So if there is a case, you have information that you think may be pertinent to a case that went unsolved, you know, we will listen. So, you know, bring us your information.
And bring them to the surface as well.
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
I want to thank all of you. Thank our listeners out there. I want to thank once again Paul Muller for his sponsorship. Justice for All is now coming to a close in 60 minutes. They go by so fast, don't they, Bree? Bill Redner, our fan out there, is with us. But thanks again for this great story and effective police work once again. Until next time, this is Tom Mellon on behalf of WBCB Radio, Justice for All, Let's Go Places, all of our shows here. Listen in all the time. And until next time, be safe, stay well. Don't text while you drive. Jerry, I'm coming home to help you walk the dog. We have a little puppy at home, too. And most importantly, God bless America.